They still think you are the same person. That is the advantage. They still talk to you like the old buttons work. Still assume silence can punish you. Guilt can move you. Rejection can scare you. Still think one cold message can send you into overthinking. Still believe if they pull away, you will chase. Let them believe it. Do not correct them. You are becoming dangerous in ways they have not noticed yet. Not dangerous because you are losing control, because you are finally gaining it. Anybody can explode. Anybody can send the paragraph, shout, break something. Make pain loud enough for the whole room to hear. That is not what is happening to you. What is happening to you is quieter. You are learning to feel the impulse and not obey it. Someone ignores you. You do not chase. Someone misunderstands you. You do not turn your life into a courtroom. Someone threatens to leave. You stop begging them to stay. Someone lies. You do not argue with the lie.
You remember it. That is different. The old you needed things resolved immediately. You could not sleep with tension in the room. You needed the answer, the apology, the reassurance.
Anything that made the nervous system stop screaming. Now you can let a question remain unanswered. You can let the phone stay silent. You can let somebody be wrong about you and still eat, still work, still sleep. That is where the danger begins. The moment your peace stops depending on another person's behavior, half the weapons people used against you become useless. They have not noticed yet. They think you are quiet because you are hurt. Sometimes you are, but pain is not driving anymore. They think you stopped arguing because you ran out of words. You did not run out of words. You ran out of reasons to spend them. That is colder and much more final. You used to think every misunderstanding was a fire, so you ran toward it with a bucket. Not anymore. Some fires can burn. Some bridges can burn too. You do not have to live on every side of the river. That lesson cost you enough. Now you understand what your attention is worth. Attention. That is the first thing becoming dangerous inside you. You used to give it away like it regenerated overnight. It does not. Every hour you spend thinking about somebody who does not deserve you is an hour taken from the person you could become. Every argument you keep replaying is stealing material from your future. Every time you check whether they noticed, regretted it, missed you, watched you, you are still working for someone who is no longer paying you. You see that now. So you are pulling your attention back. At first it feels empty. Then it feels powerful. You hear your own thoughts again, and some of them hurt. You realize how much time you wasted proving things. Proving you were loyal. Proving you were good. Proving you were not selfish. Proving you deserved respect from people who had already decided how little they could give you and still keep you around. You were working too hard for bad customers. That era is ending. You do not need everybody to understand your value. You just stop selling cheaply. No announcement. No dramatic speech. You simply become less available for what devalues you. They may call that arrogance. Of course they will. People rarely call a boundary when they benefited from its absence. Let them talk. That is the second thing they have not noticed. Words are losing access to you. Not all words. Truth still enters. Good advice still enters. Love still enters. But cheap words, they bounce. You've changed. Correct. You're acting different. Correct. You used to care. You still care. You just no longer destroy yourself to prove it. The old version of you made care look like unlimited access. He answered every call, gave another chance, stayed another hour, explained one more time, forgave before the apology had even finished. He was generous. He was also exhausted. And underneath some of that generosity was fear. Fear that if you stopped giving, people would stop staying. Then some people did stop staying. And you survived. That changed everything. There are losses that hurt you. Then there are losses that remove the thing controlling you. You lost enough people to learn you do not die when someone leaves. You lose sleep. You lose appetite. You replay everything. You feel empty. Then one morning, sunlight hits the same wall. You make coffee. You answer a message. You laugh at something you were not expecting to laugh at. A week becomes a month. The thing you thought you could not survive becomes something you already survived. That memory is inside you now. They cannot see it. But it changed the mathematics. Threatened to leave. Painful. Not fatal. Withdraw affection. You have lived through colder rooms. Use silence. Silence trained you. Try to replace you. You finally know being chosen by somebody who does not respect you is not a prize. These lessons made you less reactive. And the less reactive you become, the more clearly you can see. That is the third danger. Clarity. You used to hear words. Now you hear contradictions. You used to hear words. Apologies. Now you watch Tuesday. Anybody can cry on Sunday. What happens Tuesday? Anybody can promise change at midnight. What happens when life becomes ordinary again? Anybody can say how important you are while they are afraid of losing you. How do they treat you when they feel secure? That is where truth lives. Ordinary behavior. And once you started watching ordinary behavior, people became easier to understand. That almost disappointed you. You spent years thinking certain situations were complicated. They were not. You just did not like the answer. Someone who keeps lying is not confused. Someone who respects you only after consequences is not misunderstood. Someone who celebrates you publicly and competes with you privately is not complicated. Someone who needs you weak so they can feel powerful is not your home. You know that now. And once a man sees clearly, manipulation has to work much harder. They still think the old performance will work. A little affection, a little distance, a little guilt, a little chaos. Enough to pull you emotionally off balance. But now part of your mind watches from outside the performance. Interesting. That word changes things. Interesting. So this is what they do when they feel you pulling away. Interesting. So the apology appears only after access changes. Interesting. So your progress makes them colder. Observation turns emotional traps into information. Information gives you options. And options make you difficult to control. That is why your calm feels different now. Before, you stayed quiet because you were afraid of what would happen if you spoke. Now you stay quiet because you know exactly what speaking would accomplish. Nothing. Before, you walked away because you were overwhelmed. Now you walk away because the conversation is no longer worth the price of your attention. Before, you said no and spent 3 days feeling guilty. Now you say no and continue your evening. Different. These are small things. Nobody claps. But this is how a life changes. Not through one huge decision. Through tiny decisions that stop betraying you. You are becoming someone who keeps promises to himself. That is the fourth danger. Self-trust. You spent years wanting other people to trust you. You showed up, kept your word, carried people, proved yourself. But how often did you keep your word to yourself? You said you were done, then went back. You said tomorrow you would start, then did not. You said you would stop answering that person, Then the phone lit up, and your boundary became a suggestion. Every time you did that, your own mind watched. It learned not to believe you. Now that is changing. When you say you are leaving, your feet move. When you say you are training, you train. When you say you are saving, you stop wasting. When you say you will not beg for basic respect, you do not. Small evidence. Again, again, again. And slowly your mind begins to trust your mouth. That relationship is powerful. A man who trusts himself does not need the world to feel stable before he moves. If the plan fails, he will adjust. If someone leaves, he will grieve. If the money disappears, he will rebuild. If the room rejects him, he will find another room or build one. He becomes difficult to threaten with uncertainty. What if nobody else wants you? You will find out. What if you fail? Then you learn. What if they hate you? They are allowed. What if you end up alone? You have met yourself there before. Fear asks questions. You are finally answering them. That is why it is getting quieter inside. Not because life became easier, because you stopped treating every possible disaster like the end of the story. You have evidence now. There were nights you thought would finish you. They did not. There were people you thought you could not live without. You are breathing. There were futures that collapsed in one conversation. You built another morning anyway. The body remembers survival. That memory changes posture. You start walking into rooms differently. Not trying to dominate. Not trying to be noticed. Just no longer begging the room to approve your existence. They notice the posture. They do not know where it came from. Let them wonder. You do not need to explain the nights that built it. You are becoming private too. Not secretive. Private. There is a difference. You used to tell people everything while you were still figuring it out. Your plans, your pain, your next move, your dream. Then you wondered why everything felt crowded. Too many voices in unfinished rooms. Now you let things develop without an audience. And once you stop performing your growth, discipline finally gets a chance to become real. It is doing the same useful thing after the emotion disappears. The heartbreak will not always motivate you. The betrayal gets old. Anger fades. Eventually there is no enemy left to prove wrong. Then what? That is where most transformations die. They were powered by resentment. Yours is changing fuel. You are learning to move because the mission matters, not because somebody is watching. Not because you want revenge. Not because you need to become successful enough for somebody to regret losing you. You are beginning to want a life that would still matter if nobody from your past ever heard about it. That changes the agreements you make with yourself. You no longer agree that love means access without respect. You no longer agree that being a good man means being easy to use. You no longer agree that loyalty means staying after the truth is obvious. You no longer agree that being calm means accepting anything. You no longer agree that your value depends on being needed. That one is enormous. Being needed used to make you feel safe. If they need you, they cannot leave. If the job needs you, you matter. If the relationship needs your constant fixing, you have a purpose. Then you learned the difference. Being needed can make you useful. It does not automatically make you loved. Some people panic when you stop solving everything for them. Not because they are losing you, because they are losing the service you provided. Watch carefully. That realization may hurt. Let it. Pain becomes useful when you stop editing the lesson. You do not need everyone to be a villain. You only need to know whether the relationship is healthy for you. That is mature darkness. Not everyone betrayed you. Not trust nobody. That is still pain talking. Real darkness has eyes adjusted to low light. It sees the good and the damage at the same time. It can love somebody and still leave, forgive somebody and still close the door. Remember beautiful years without using them as a reason to waste another one. That is what you are learning. You do not need hatred to create distance anymore. And once hatred is gone, what remains is discipline. The dangerous version of you is not the one who has one incredible week. It is the one who becomes difficult to interrupt for years. Think about that. Years of keeping your word, protecting your attention, training, learning, building, saving, walking away from what drains you. Years without restarting every time somebody from the past knocks on the door. Who are you then? They have no idea. Neither do you. That is exciting. Pain made you intense. Discipline will make you effective. And effectiveness is where people finally notice. By then, the identity has already changed. They will see the body, not the mornings. The confidence, not the promises you kept alone. The calm, not the nights you wanted to return to chaos because chaos felt familiar.
They will call it sudden. Let them. Nobody sees roots. They notice when the tree becomes too large to ignore. You are in the roots now. Dark soil. No applause. Good.
Stay there. Do not dig yourself up every week to prove you are growing. Keep going. Eventually your standards become automatic. At first, boundaries require effort. You have to remind yourself why you left. Remind yourself not to answer. Remind yourself not to explain. Then the new behavior becomes normal. You stop finding disrespect attractive just because it comes with chemistry. You stop calling chaos exciting. You stop admiring people who are unavailable. You stop confusing intensity with intimacy. Your taste changes. That is when the past loses you permanently. Because even if the old door reopened, you would not fit through it. You outgrew the room. An apology cannot reverse that. The apology may even be real. You can appreciate it. Still no. No becomes peaceful. Not angry. Not shaking. Just know. You begin protecting your calendar, your circle, your sleep, your information, your energy. Everything valuable requires protection. You used to think protection meant fear. Now you know it means responsibility. That is how dangerous men are made. Not in one explosion, in repetition. Dangerous does not mean aggressive. You are learning a better definition. Dangerous means difficult to derail, and difficult to deceive twice. Difficult to guilt into self-betrayal. Difficult to distract from purpose. Difficult to scare with loss. Difficult to buy with approval. Difficult to drag backward with nostalgia. Dangerous means you can love without becoming owned. Give without becoming empty. Stand alone without making loneliness your identity. Lose without becoming defeated. Win without needing witnesses. That is what is forming inside you. Do not turn it into a costume. You do not need a colder face, a fake lack of emotion. That is performance. The strongest version of you can still smile, still love deeply, still help people, still laugh too loud with the right ones. The difference is choice. Nobody gets that version through guilt anymore. Nobody gets your softness through manipulation. Nobody gets your time because they remember when it used to be free. You choose who enters, what matters, what deserves a response, when to walk, what you build, which pain becomes wisdom. That is sovereignty, and sovereignty is quiet. So keep going quietly. Let them underestimate you a little longer. Let them think it is a phase. Let them think the old buttons still work. Do not explain that the machine has been rewired. They will discover it the next time they press one. Nothing. The next time they expect you to chase. Nothing. The next time they hand you guilt. Return to sender. The next time they disrespect you and wait for another long conversation. Door closed. That is when they will understand. You were not becoming cruel. You were becoming clear. You were not becoming heartless. You were becoming selective. You were not losing yourself. You were removing everything that kept interrupting your return. And now look at you. Still unfinished. Good. Still learning. Good. Still carrying scars. Of course. But there is something in you now that was not there before. Direction. You know what you will no longer tolerate. You know what your attention costs. You know you can survive people leaving. You know silence cannot kill you. You know loneliness can become a workshop. You know pain can become information. You know discipline can continue after motivation dies. You know you do not have to be understood to move. That knowledge is changing you. They cannot see knowledge. They only see what it does later. So let later surprise them. For now, work. Protect the morning. Keep the promise. Watch the pattern. Say less. Train. Save. Build. Leave what needs leaving. Forgive what needs forgiving. But do not reopen every door. Stop performing your transformation. Live it.
One day, somebody will look at you and say, "You got lucky." Smile. They did not see the nights. Somebody will say, "You changed." Say thank you. Somebody will try the old version of you again.
And that will be the moment. No rage, no speech, no revenge. Just a quiet realization on their face. You are not there anymore. The person they knew how to manipulate has moved out. The person who needed their approval has no forwarding address. The person who panicked when they walked away learned how to walk too. The person who kept explaining finally understood that peace does not need a closing argument. That is when they will notice, but by then, you will not need them to, because the most dangerous thing happening to you has nothing to do with them. You are becoming someone you can depend on. And once that happens, everything that used to control you has to find another target. You are becoming dangerous in ways they have not noticed yet. Keep it that way. For now.